Hello, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Pirovano, and I'm here to speak to you about effective ways to assess language use and reading comprehension in the secondary English classroom. So first, I want to discuss the use of Socratic seminars to develop critical thinking skills and assess language use. Then I'll talk about how to use self-assessed portfolios to evaluate writing progress. And then I'll talk about how teachers can evaluate whether students truly understand what they're reading. So first, Socratic seminars. Socratic seminars are discussions based around the open-ended questions given by a leader, typically the teacher. The students respond, think critically about their peers' responses, and then they can pose questions in response to their peers. Socratic seminars are extremely useful in an English classroom because they encourage students to think critically about an informational or fictional text. They can help students make new discoveries about a text, and they can help students learn how to make text-to-self and text-to-world connections. The advantages of Socratic seminars include they're a formal way to assess content mastery. It helps peers learn how to interact with one another. It helps all students reinforce their understanding of the content. And regardless of public speaking skills, it should demonstrate which students know the material and which students don't. The disadvantages: Socratic seminars may embarrass students who are not confident with public speaking or who aren't as fluent in reading comprehension or interpretation. So to minimize this effect, some teachers may want to review the material with students before the seminar. And another disadvantage is that students will have to do a lot of preparation for the Socratic seminar at home. So goals of Socratic seminars are, well, when you use them as a summative assessment, they can assess a lot of content. So students must know a lot of information and have internalized some of the text in order to participate and respond in a meaningful way. Also, Socratic seminars should allow students to participate in academic discussion. This helps enrich content for high achievers. Peer participation can help remediate the content for struggling writers. And this kind of discussion usually does improve writing skills. Studies have shown that there is a correlation between language use orally and language use in the written form. And it also will teach students how to respectfully discuss their views. We all know that in the world of online correspondence on social media, comment sections, even on the news, people aren't really well versed in this skill anymore. So hopefully students will know how to talk about their opinions and other people's opinions more respectfully after this. And it will also help students advocate for themselves in school and after graduation. So Beth Walsh-Morman studied her students' performances on Socratic seminars in face-to-face meetings and online discussion boards. She noticed that many of her students who struggle with public speaking and class participation significantly improved their performance on the online meetings. However, many of the students who preferred in-class discussion displayed a poorer performance on the online discussion. So using this study, I had the idea of creating a hybrid Socratic seminar, basically combining the positive elements of both face-to-face and online discussion. So you can discuss the text aloud, like a typical Socratic seminar, but then maybe combine some polls using the Poll Everywhere software to just get all the students participating in a way that they feel comfortable with. All right, so self-assessed writing portfolios. Writing portfolios are compilations of student writing that are used to show growth. They can include all the writing that the student has completed in a year, or it can have a selected set of writings. The students can either self-select the writing, or the teacher can set parameters or requirements for the writing that students should include. So the teacher can say you need an essay, a long paragraph, a character analysis, etc. Students will reflect on the writing process, and a self-assessed student portfolio asks students to grade themselves based on their individual improvement throughout the time period of the writings. So it's very logical to use writing portfolios in an ELA classroom. However, using a self-assessed writing portfolio has its own unique advantages in the ELA classroom. Students can practice the editing and revising stages of the writing cycle while they're assessing their portfolios, and they also will take more stock in their assignments if they know that they will be assessing themselves eventually. So some of the advantages: it encourages student responsibility, it is motivational for students to do their best, and it also shows student performance over a period of time rather than just a snapshot of their achievement. The disadvantages: students may give themselves a grade they don't deserve, either too high or too low. So the teacher can minimize this by giving parameters or a rubric for how to assess their efforts. Also, the self-assessed portfolio may discourage some students from working hard. They might say, well, I'll just give myself an A anyway. So it's just up to the teacher whether you want to tell them that they'll be assessing their own portfolio before you assign it or after they've done the work to minimize this effect. So ideally, a self-assessed portfolio will accomplish the following goals. The portfolio should display student growth that correlates to the effort that they have put forth. It should give students responsibility for their learning and pride over their work. And it also should demonstrate students' strengths, but also show their weaknesses. So it will help them set new goals for future growth. The Bahus study was conducted in a university setting. It used self-assessed portfolios as the only assessment for the course. Obviously, I would not recommend this in a high school setting, but the students did give feedback on the self-assessed portfolios, and it was insightful about using them in the classroom. Many of the students expressed frustration about the time consumed completing the portfolios. However, several students did say that it helped motivate them. One of the students said, "Spending time looking at my work, commenting, reflecting, and grading it made me want to give the best I could." Overall, many students did display an improvement in the quality of their work. One of the downsides of this article is that it did not report the actual assessment data or commentary on how accurate the grading process was. If the self-assessed portfolio will be a large portion of the student's grade, I would like to know if the grades that students gave themselves were accurate. I think that self-assessed writing portfolios could be a useful tool in an ELA class and could be an interesting experiment for developing student responsibility in the classroom. So finally, reading comprehension. One of the things that ELA teachers do struggle with is wondering whether their students are truly understanding what they're reading or if they're just fluent readers. If you're reading aloud, sometimes a student will have great reading fluency and you'll assume that they understand everything, and then it comes to interpreting the text and they have no idea. So we really have to monitor whether students are understanding. This is very difficult. But there are several different models for teaching and monitoring reading comprehension. Reading comprehension benefits students inside and outside of school, and it's a useful skill in all of the course subjects. So in their science, math, social studies classes, they'll be working on their reading comprehension, so these tools can actually help all teachers across the disciplines. Okay, so Assessing reading comprehension. I enjoyed this article because it broke down all the different types of assessments that we've read in our textbook and gave some examples of each type that you can use to monitor reading comprehension. So first, they approach reading comprehension from an interactive view, which means they're going to use different assessment methods for different purposes. It's not a one-size-fits-all method of teaching reading comprehension. So screening assessments are similar to diagnostic assessments, and they're used to gather data. Typically, they're used before you administer any type of assessment in your own classroom. Teachers can gather data from previous teachers, from their standardized assessments, and basically it gives you an idea of who's on par with your reading level or who's below or above reading level. Diagnostic assessments are more individualized than screening assessments. They can be a wide range of informal or formal assessments. These, as well as the next four, are typically developed by the teacher, and they are used to inform instructional decisions. Formative progress monitoring. These are types of informal assessments, and they're conducted during instruction to gather data. This can be any type of formative assessment, including book logs, work samples, tickets out the door, and class discussion. Benchmark progress monitoring. These are assessments conducted at predetermined times in the year. Examples can include midterm exams or monthly student-teacher conferences. And finally, summative assessments. These are data collected at the end of the year or a unit that demonstrates how students have mastered the content. We've talked a lot about these throughout the assessment course, and they include final exams, portfolios, and performance tasks. So reading comprehension, just like all content areas, requires a mix of all these types of assessments in order to get a full picture of how students are understanding what they are reading. The authors of the article also discuss the importance of context on reading comprehension. When students can relate to the text they're reading, they're more likely to comprehend the text. Therefore, teaching students to make text-to-self connections will help them comprehend what they're reading. Similarly, students will comprehend texts that relate to their world and their cultures. So finding relevant materials for students to read will help them practice reading and their comprehension skills. Using a mixture of assessment methods can help students practice their verbal language use, writing, and their reading comprehension. Self-assessed portfolios will help students practice their writing and motivate them to do their best. Hybrid online and face-to-face Socratic seminars can help students practice with a text deeply, and a variety of assessments can help teachers monitor students' reading comprehension. With a variety of assessments, including some of those discussed today, teachers can paint the total picture of their students' performance in the ELA classroom.